How's it going, agents? Biz here with another Division 2 video. This video is the final of my 6-part series on the Dark Hours raid. For those of you that stuck it out, I hope you learned something, had a laugh, and that RNG was kind to you in your raiding. Today, we're going to go over the ultimate reward from this raid. We're going to take a look at the Eagle BEARER. We'll break down this raid exclusive item and finally show off a couple builds I used this gun on successfully. As always, if you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. You guys checking out my content is a big part of why I do this, and it means a lot that all of you are engaging and having a great time. Do me a favor, let's get a conversation started in the comments. What setups do you guys like to run with your Eagle BEARERs? While you think about that, let's dive on in. So, you made it through Boomer, Dizzy, Ricochet, Weasel, Buddy, Lucy,
that guy,
and a DDP Razorback drone launcher.
Those things too.
A few more names on the list, and you might give Arya Stark a run for her money. Congratulations, though, on finishing up Dark Hours raid, though. Now that you're at the end, there's a chest you can open up, and in that chest, you have a slim chance of getting the raid-exclusive Eagle BEARER. So the Eagle BEARER is the only gun in the game set up on an MK18 platform. It features a solid combination of both high damage and RPM. For those who've been around Division 2 since launch, the damage is fairly similar to the P416 custom pre-nerf back in year 1. This weapon comes with the normal AR damage and damage to health. You also see headshot damage as a secondary attribute. This will come in handy as we talk talents. Speaking of, the exotic talents on this gun, Eagle Strike and Tenacity, are geared towards your gun being a laser. With Eagle Strike, you gain up to 30% extra accuracy while continuously firing. For those not familiar, heightened accuracy will keep your groupings focused together. This works well as the name of the game is to get headshots with this gun. The second talent is Tenacity. This talent gets its strength from each shot landed and grants the buff when you get a headshot kill. This buff will delay between 40 to 80% of damage for 15 seconds. Each kill while Tenacity is active will reduce the amount of delayed damage you take up to 100% with 3 kills. Now that may be a lot to take in at first, so to put this simply, when you get a headshot kill, a good amount of incoming damage is going to be delayed. This damage will affect you if you don't get 3 kills though. Out of all the exotic gear and weapons in the division, I have to say Eagle BEARER, and more specifically, that Tenacity talent, has the highest learning curve in-game currently. My best advice to any new Eagle BEARER owners is to take time to get used to that Tenacity. There's also no wrong way to mitigate the buff. Some people go bonus armor, some only take advantage of the juiced up accuracy and go for body shots. Whatever way you do it, as long as you take heed, you're going to be good to go. Now that we know what's under the hood of this souped up bird boy, I'm going to show you not one, but 2 ways you can take full advantage of what the Eagle BEARER can do. So the first build I'll show here is my go-to build for most PvE and PvP content. To start, we go with the gunner specialization. This build could also do well on firewall, but in this case I wanted to contain enemies, so the riot foam grenade works well in that. We set this loadout up with a balanced 3 red and 3 blue core attributes. The idea going there is to have a good balance of surviving incoming damage while also being able to deal a decent amount of damage in kind. Weapon-wise, to support the Eagle BEARER, we have the Apartment. This is the named MPX that has perfectly measured. This talent will grant alternating rate of fire and damage buffs and debuffs. Doing the math, ultimately a full mag will net plus 6% damage. All in all, a nasty weapon for when the Eagle BEARER is on empty. Looking at the gear, one thing you may notice about this build is there isn't any brand set getting used twice.
What?
This may seem weird, but stick with me as it rips. To start, we have a Fenris mask. As we're going to be on the Eagle BEARER as much as possible, the extra AR damage bonus helps. We also see the attributes rolled to crit damage and armor regen. This will be a theme in this setup again as we're trying to both survive and do a bunch of damage. Moving to the chest, we have the Ridgeway's Pride exotic chess piece. This is one half of what makes this build so successful. The Bleeding Edge talent applies a bleed to any one shot within 15 meters. Additionally, however many enemies are bleeding within that range will also grant a percentage of armor regen. This varies from 3% for one enemy all the way up to 48% for 5 enemies. Up next, we see a Bellstone Armory holster. Again, going back to the survivability, this piece has armor regen as the brand bonus and armor regen as an attribute. Hopefully you're starting to see a theme here. Speaking of themes, moving into knee pads, it's your weekly Fox's Prayer check-in. Maybe if Liquid Death is watching, they'll throw me an endorsement someday for every time I use these. But until then, damage out of cover, best in slot, you know what it is. We arrive next at the gloves, and we have a Seska pair of mitts on this loadout. Did this mostly for the bonus to crit chance, but also, if I'm not mistaken, these gloves were the first good roll I got in Warlords of New York, so I always feel like coming home in these. Speaking of crit chance, we see this setup between 42% and 57% chance, depending on the gun. Finally, to wrap up the gear, we use a Grupo backpack. Grupo one piece will give us a bonus to crit damage, which surprisingly lands around a 178 to 182%, depending on the gun. Not bad for a bunch of one-piece bonuses, am I right? More importantly, the backpack bonus is what's going to glue this setup all together. Creeping Death is going to spread a status effect 8 meters from your initial target. This will make your grouped up opponents all bleed. As we stated earlier with Bleeding Edge, the more bleed, the more armor you feed. This armor regen will be how we support tenacity on this build. Hopefully you land the 3 kills given the awesome burst DPS of the Eagle Bearer. Should you not though, Bleeding Edge will be your insurance plan for sure. Finishing off in the skill area, we'll keep a shield handy as having blue core attributes will keep that shield very strong. We'll also alternate decoy or revive hives depending on the activity. These skills aren't necessarily make or break to this build, so feel free to play around with that and let me know if you come up with anything cool in the comments. With this setup, you're likely to be the bane of any spawn trap you see in Summit or stacked up group of rogues you might run into in the Dark Zone. Your opponents will be scratching their heads all the way back to the checkpoint. Unless they also watch this video, then there will be no head scratching. At all. Well, that will wrap up the first build. I do have another setup I want to share with you. This build goes in the opposite direction of trying to survive, and is rather more of a skull hunter, if you will. To start, again, we're on a gunner specialization. The major change from the prior build is in the attributes, where you see everything being put into red. Now you might be thinking, great, Biz is going to show me another crit build. Been there, done that. To that, I say, well-deserved assumption. But keep watching and learn something. To start at weapons, we support the Eagle Bearer with a SOCOM M1A. This was a decision based on 2 things. Number 1, M1As are really heavy hitting. And number 2, I hadn't seen a good SOCOM M1A for like over a year, so I wanted to use it. With this M1A, we see Ranger in the talent slot. Ranger is an all-around good talent as its amp damage bonus begins at really close range, and it just gets better. That lack of a downside makes it a really great choice. I also want to take a moment and talk about the sidearm here. Now, I'm not one to really use my pistol too often, but in starting to mess with a Regulus build, I came across the Finisher talent. This will give your agent 30% extra crit chance and damage when landing a kill and then swapping weapons. How I didn't know this talent existed, I don't know, but we know now. Moving into the gear, we begin at the Punch Drunk. Now this is nice as we're incorporating the pistol into how this build works, but also the sizable buff to headshot damage will be the main theme to this build. We want as much damage to the dome as we can do with the chrome. Up next, we have one of our 3 pieces of Providence. We're running the name chest, the Sacrifice. Now this bad boy comes with perfect glass cannon. PFG will amplify all your damage by 30%, while amplifying incoming damage by 60%. Seems like a crazy trade-off, but there is a solution for this, and that is don't get hit. On this chest, again, we see more attributes rolled to headshot damage. The goal of this build is really going to be chaining tenacity faster than John Wick makes his way through a nightclub. Headshots, gonna be everything. In the holster slot, we roll with a Grupo Sombra piece. Here we start to see the build balancing out the headshot damage for a little extra crit hit chance and damage. Knee pads, for once in my life, I switch it up and go with a Providence set. I just checked, and hell hasn't frozen over, but the brand bonuses to headshot damage, crit hit chance, and damage are very nice. One thing you also might notice on this knee pad and the Seska gloves are attributes rolled to weapon handling. This added buff to accuracy and stability is very nice when going skull farming, so don't sleep on it. Finishing this build, we see the third and final Providence piece. This backpack has Vigilance rolled on it, which grants 25% extra damage when not getting hit. Combine that with the perfect glass cannon, and you're hitting harder than a freight truck. Or so I would think. I've never had it happen before, but I'd imagine the sensation, the feeling would be that of a freight truck. While this build sounds like a lot of damage, how are we going to evade getting shot? And shot badly. Like I said earlier, hopefully we're chaining tenacity, and that is mitigating a lot of damage. Let's look at skills, though, as that will be our backup plan on this set. So in the skills, we use both a decoy and a Banshee Pulse. Since we're on the gunner, we have access to that. Very handy. These two, or even a Shock Trap, will keep enemies from being able to land shots on you. The key is to be a master sneak. And if you can do that, this build will finish them. All in all, either of these builds will be great with the Eagle Bearer. If you have a different setup and you want to share, though, leave it in the comments below for people to use. Either way, that's going to wrap things up for this series. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please like, subscribe for more fun content. I have a lot planned for this month, especially with E3 coming up, and you're not going to want to miss. I'll catch y'all next time. Biz out.